Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about confrontation and conflict management. So, confrontation is something that a lot of people aren't comfortable with, but it's something that's necessary for growth. Something to keep in mind is that confrontation is hard for all parties. Um, it's uncomfortable, but it's important for us as leaders to model effective confrontation in front of students and stuff like that. Um, we get better also at things as we do them. So if you've never been comfortable with confrontation, a way to get comfortable with confrontation is just confronting people about things that they need to be confronted about. You know, if we avoid conflict altogether, it's kind of implicitly saying that we approve of the behavior that's happening. So if a friend of mine has tobacco on campus or something and I say nothing about it, then I'm implicitly saying like that I disagree with the rule, or that that I agree with his behavior, which might not be the case, you know. So if a student's not behaving acceptably on campus, you need to go directly to that person. You don't need to talk behind their back. You need to go to them and say, hey, that's not an acceptable way to act. Is our expectation for you instead. You know, express concern about their behavior. Let them know how it affects themselves and how it affects the community as a whole. Allow them to understand that their actions are affecting them and affecting other people. Next, what you should do is clarify expectations with these students. Let them know that we hold them accountable because we care. You know, it's not from a place of piety, it's from a place of love. When confronting others, the most important thing about confrontation is you should develop a relationship with them first. So, and that's important on like the first 2 or 3 weeks of being an RA. You know, developing a relationship with students always makes confrontation easier. So if I have a relationship with John Doe and he's doing something he's not supposed to, I can go up to him and be like, hey man, you shouldn't do that. And he knows that I care for him. But if I don't even know his name, and I go up to him and I'm like, hey, you shouldn't do that, then he's not going to respond to that confrontation or to the, you know, constructive criticism that we're giving. So that's the most important thing. Develop a relationship first. Next, you need to confront others in a mindset of love. You're not a police officer. You're a community developer. As an RA, your job is to develop community, and that's what you need to be in the mindset of when you're confronting people. Another important thing is to not put confrontation off. You know, if you see a behavior that's happening and you let it happen for 3 weeks and then you decided to confront them about it, they're going to be like, well, you watched me do this for 3 weeks and you didn't say anything. So why does it matter? You know, so developing a relationship, being direct, and then confronting that action as soon as it happens is important. Obviously, understand the context that you're in, but you know, confront it soon. Meet students with empathy also. You know, come from a place of understanding, like, oh, like, why did you do this? Ask them questions like, hey, what was your reasoning behind this? Don't come Don't come in an accusatory mindset. Come in a mindset of questions. You know, like, hey, what made you do this? Why were you doing this? Stuff like that. And then another thing to do is be specific in what they were doing and what you want them to do. And I think a Bible verse that kind of ties all this up, kind of ties confrontation up, is Ephesians 4, verse 15. It says, rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. So I think that's something we need to understand when dealing with confrontation, is that we're ambassadors of Jesus, and even in confrontation, we need to be representing him well. Now we're going to talk about conflict management. Conflict management and confrontation, they kind of work hand in hand together, so that's why we're doing it together. So conflict management, many times in conflict management, you'll serve as a mediator between two residents or roommates. As an RA, one of the many jobs you have is being a mediator. So roommates are going to come and be like, my roommate screams in his sleep, and I don't know what to do about that. And then you have the terrific task of standing in the middle and hearing both sides of the story and trying to help, trying to find some kind of resolution. Um, so goals of conflict management, or one of the goals is to bring problems in the open by airing out differences. So it's like you, as the mediator, unbiased party, you have the goal of bringing out both sides of the story and airing out the problem, seeing what the problem actually is from an unbiased standpoint. Another goal you have is to gain understanding of both viewpoints. So just listening to both sides, being an active listener, an active participator in the conversation, that's another one of your goals, understanding both viewpoints of the conflict. Another goal is to point out consequences if actions keep happening on either side. Be like, if you keep doing this, there's going to be repercussions. If you keep being loud after quiet hours, there's going to be repercussions, not from a roommate standpoint, from an RD and RA standpoint. You have to let them know that in conflict management. And the last goal is to find a fair compromise for all parties. In conflict management, there's opposing views and opposing perspectives, but your job as an RA is to find that middle ground where both people can find resolution to the situation. Compromise isn't each person getting exactly what they want. Compromise is both people getting some of what they want, and they have to understand that when you're dealing with conflict management. Some tips to being a facilitator. One tip that I always tell people in conflict management is to be objective. Don't let your opinion get in the situation. Just be an unbiased listener, an unbiased person in the situation. Even if it is between two friends or two of your roommates, like, you have to be unbiased as an RA. Another tip is listening for feelings and facts. Both are important in conflict management for many reasons. Just understanding just allowing each individual in the conflict to understand how their actions made them feel. I think it's important for them going forward in the future, like not doing those actions again. So I think, and then facts are important because it's actually what happened. Another tip is make sure that each person is listening to each other. So if I'm having a conversation with my roommate, but they're not listening, then there's not going to be any resolution in this conflict. So a good thing that I like to do is be like, did you hear what he just said? Or like kind of quiz them as we're going on out through the conflict. Be like, hey, he said this. What do you think of that? Or, just make sure that the other person is actively listening. And then one of the most important things in conflict management and even in confrontation is resist the avoidance of conflict. If you feel like conflict's happening or someone brings conflict to you, avoiding the conflict is not going to make it resolved, So as an RA, you have to go head first in confrontation and conflict management. So, thank you.